Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Corner. This will be last video of 2025. I hope you enjoy it. The funny thing is I've been on social media a lot since the beginning of December, and my stats reports showed me that I've been on social media for over 25 hours every week. That's a lot of time spending on something that has nothing to do with me. I don't know if you have this kind of feelings when you watch other people's videos talking about their year. You feel anxious. I feel anxious. I feel like I've done nothing because their life looks so fantastic and my life just looks very different. So thinking about that, I wanted to say every year around this time, we watch other people's year in review videos. Their life looks so splendid. Their big milestones, exciting trips, glowing highlights. And you think, wow. And when we look at our lives, we were like, our lives looks so bland. That's usually when a quiet self-loathing starts. The comparison, the I should have done, the I wish I had, those moments. But here's the thing, those highlights aren't the full story. Our quiet year doesn't mean an empty one. So that's the most important thing. And a lot of big milestones of our growth don't really look impressive on a screen. That's how we feel about our lives because we don't have anything showy we can share with other people. And that's when we start to doubt, do we really have an amazing year? Or every year just looks the same? But this is why I want to do this video. I want to show you that even a small thing you can find out about what you did, what you haven't achieved, or you're so proud of yourself, what you want to continue doing or you want to stop doing. And those small things are the important parts of our year. When we think about it, we'll feel more grateful for what we have and we'll feel more motivated to fight for what we want next year. So let's get started. I have 5 questions prepared for this video. The first question is, what are the highlights from the past year? For me to answer this question, I would like to say, speaking up for myself at the workplace. I would say that was very difficult for me, and I, of course, had my own meltdown at the moment, but I was able to articulate my needs, my desire, and my feelings towards the incident, and I was able to speak up for myself. And I could tell my lead was very shocked about how I was very strong about what I wanted, and I really voiced my request. I think probably because I used to be very timid. I often don't bring up a lot of problems. Even if there are problems, I try to cope with the problems by myself so I don't disturb other people or bring any inconvenience to other people. That's always me, right? And also, I used to put up a lot of things that I don't have to. The reason for that is I don't like confrontation. I don't like a lot of things that require you to put a lot of effort, minds, and you have to deal with a lot of uncomfortable moments. If I am thinking about whether to put up bullshit or to deal with other people, other things, I would say, well, bullshit is like nothing, so I'll do that. But the more you do it, the more people think you are easy with those kind of things, they will dump more on you. That's one thing I really learned from last year. And another thing I think it's one of the highlights from last year would be reasoning with evidence. That's one lesson I really learned. You need to document every single thing. I don't know about your jobs, but some of the jobs require you to pay attention to details. Jobs require you to deal with people. Some of people are very difficult, right? And things happen. Communication can go south. You never know. So for me, one thing I really learned is I was documenting every single thing that happened in my classroom. So when there's something or other people file a case against me, I have evidence and recorded a date, what they say with the quotation, with my reaction, their reaction, everything in detail. And I asked ChatGPT to polish it for you. And I sent it that look very professional. That's the one thing I was really, really proud of myself when I did that. Another thing that I'm very proud of myself is keep pushing when people are trying to brush me off. And I realized that they are trying to talk you either out of it or into something that they think it's easier for you to deal with that rather than for them, looking for more means, or it was more hassle for them to deal with other people on the same matter. So they always tend to go with the easy ones, human nature, right? I learned to keep pushing, saying things like, I don't care how you handle this thing. I don't care how you solve the problems. It is your job and a responsibility to solve it. And I was very proud of myself at that moment. So that's one thing I'm really happy. And another thing, I know if you are like me, you hate confrontations, you normally won't embarrass yourself or other people because you just feel so uncomfortable doing that or being in the middle of the situation like this, is pointing out their bad intention. You know, when some people ask you things or trying to sweet talk you, and why do they do that? They want you to bite the bullet and do it. They want you to just, take it and leave. But there's a bad intention there. And normally, well, as an adult, you don't normally point out things like that. You will make a whole situation even more embarrassing. So you always want to avoid that. But for me this year, I did point it out why this person didn't want to solve my problem. And that there was a bad intention there. So I literally said, look, I understand why you didn't want to move the student to another classroom because dealing with me is much easier than dealing with other teachers who have stronger personality. So I'm just trying to ask, if same thing happened to that teacher, would you do the same thing? Like what you did to me, to the other teacher? And then she couldn't handle that. She flipped. And that's when I knew she had the bad intention. And I pointed out, and I didn't want anything going her way. So guess what? I solved the problem. Even though after that, for a while, I was still very uncomfortable thinking about that. What happened at the moment? I felt like I did something wrong. But again, I was happy that I showed them I have a strong personality. I'm not a doormat. You cannot treat me like that. That's a few highlights from last year. The funny thing will be question number 2. What were the hardest aspects of the past year? The hardest part of the past year is speaking up for myself. For our introverts and for our people pleasers, it is so difficult to let people know what we really need and to make ourselves visible. You have to speak up, but speaking up requires a huge amount of courage. And things that you don't often do it, you don't get used to the feeling of it, you feel super uncomfortable. And sometimes you cringe when you even have the thought of speaking up for yourself. I think now is the most difficult part. Last year, again, it's the same incident and the same occasion and the same action I took. It was very hard. These are my reasons. So first one, when you speak up, you start to doubt yourself. Are you doing the right thing? Are you supposed to do it? Would you make other people unhappy, or you're adding more layers of difficulty to the situation? You always think about you are the one who brought this up. You are the problem maker. But are you really a problem maker? But because of speaking up, that moment will bring you back to your upbringing experience that you don't normally voice your needs or desires in people. If you ever did that and they always accuse you of being that kid or not following instructions or anything like that. So that's how I felt like there's moments I went back to that dark hole, but I'm glad I still did it. Another reason for this is whether I deserved it or not. Well, certain things like, should I take more responsibilities? Maybe I deserve it, maybe I should. Or should I speak up for myself? Maybe I shouldn't, because, I'm always the good employee, good daughter, good kid, good mom, good wife, the good thing, right? I shouldn't start the pot. And that the deserving it or not really made me feel very questioning myself. The last reason for this is very simple. As a people pleaser, it is very hard to make other people unhappy. But if you always put other people's needs before yourself, then your needs are never going to be seen or heard. And then you feel burned out, right? But at this moment, I really want to solve the problem. So the only way is to speak up and let people see me. But that means you have to bring yourself up front. And then when you bring yourself up front, you're going to hurt somebody. And somebody's not going to feel happy about what you did. And then that's when you start to feel, did I offend that person? Did I make that person not happy? Maybe I shouldn't do that. Those questionable moments will really bring you back to the old self, that you start to think maybe it's much easier to put everything behind and just bite the bullet and do it. Don't even think about it. But I'm glad that moment I was strong enough to speak for myself. It was difficult because I did have to go through all those difficult moments to question myself. But I'm glad I did it because now people know I'm not a doormat. Question number 3. What did you learn about yourself over the past year? It is a very big and a small question for me. I've learned a lot, but it's hard for me to remember every single thing about learning myself. But I think one thing that really stands out is I can't with baby steps. In previous video, I was talking about you need to set goals with baby steps. You don't want to do a big leap. You also don't want to do something too small, but you want to do something that makes you feel accomplished, right? That gives you confidence. I think what I did was two things. Two things have really boosted my confidence in doing more challenging things. First is I was able to run 5K nonstop for the very first time in my whole life. I was a never runner. Every time I ran, I had cramps. It would be like a 1 minute to 5 minutes and I was done. I never believed I was able to run. And that's why I waited so long till now. And I started running. And sometimes I even think, why didn't I start earlier? Why didn't I start before I had a kid so I had more time to train myself? But anyway, it's never too late to start anything. As long as you have the thought of it, you should start acting on it. Second thing is I was able to swim 25 meters nonstop without aids. That was amazing. I was never a water kid and I was so scared of water. And every time I went in and I wanted to swim, there was always a kickboard or floating belt or other things. I just could not trust myself. And things like that, I learned beyond I can do things is trust myself. I think most of the time I don't trust myself that a lot. I don't trust I can do it. I can do it well. I think what stops me from trusting myself is I always want the result, the perfect with one shot. But a lot of things you can't achieve that with one shot. You might have to take many steps and sometimes you might have to go backward to review your mistakes and then go forward. And it takes a very long time to achieve what you see right away. And you see the result, you think you can do it, and you're hoping to get it right away. But a lot of time we cannot. We just have to be patient and trust ourselves with the baby steps and we'll eventually get there. We might not get there in 3 months, 5 months, but we will eventually get there. And if you want to try something in the beginning of the year, 2026, and do a same review in the end of the year in 2026. See if you have made any progress. Give yourself a relatively longer term goal and then try from there. And all of those small I can moments help me really build my confidence in handling certain things. More challenging, more tricky, more difficult, whatever the things, at least I am not scared to pick it up. I will tell myself it looks very difficult, it looks scary, but at least I should do it first and figure out a plan, figure out a way. Step by step, I will eventually get there. Question number 4, what are the things you're going to stop doing in the next year? Very, very, very important thing is suppressing myself. In many ways, mentally and physically. A lot of things I do, I'm always trying to put other people's needs before myself, and I'm not thinking about myself. And I was just thinking that's okay. If I can get through it, everything will be fine. But I always look back in my mind's eye. I would be thinking, if I did this, I would. If that happened, I should. Those moments killed me. I want to get rid of those moments. I know it's going to be very difficult. That brings me to talk about the last question, and I will get to there. Another thing I want to stop doing is stop speaking too much during certain situations. Sometimes when I get nervous, I overshare. I need to stop that. And then sometimes I say stupid things and I don't even realize that. And after that, I always regret. So that's one thing I need to work on. If I can listen, I would rather speak less. So just to be safe. Very last question, what are the things I will continue doing in the next year? Well, there are a lot of things I will continue doing next year. I think I would journal more. This is related to the previous question, what I would stop doing, suppressing myself. There are many ways to stop suppressing yourself. First of all, you gotta act, right? So you gotta talk to people, let people know what you need, but that is difficult. So if you really want to start doing things like that, I think journal is a really good way. I just download an app on my phone. It's very simple. It's like texting to your friends. There's no response or anything, but sometimes you just want to text somebody and tell them about your frustration, your embarrassing moments, or other difficult situations, you want to swear and you want to just say something really bad and evil, but you don't want it appear in your journal because you feel like a journal is such a sacred thing. But that's a great map for you to just vent. Doesn't care about anything, just vent because nobody's going to judge you. I really like that. So that's one thing I'm going to do more. For physical feelings or needs, I think I would listen to my body more instead of overworking my body. And sometimes when you want to lose weight, you kind of overstretch yourself. And sometimes you want to get your muscles or you want to be able to run really fast or longer. And then you just tend to hurt yourself. I think I will listen more and continue with my exercises. Yes. Second thing I would like to continue and do a better job is read more. I can't believe it. I have this year in review of my books. And in February, I read nothing. Like, what did I do in February? I read nothing. So in January, I read one book. In March, I read one book. In May, only 2 books, so not too bad. In June, 1 book. It's like, what was I doing? If I could read 4 to 5 books every month, think about how many books I can read. Not only that, I think my next goal on reading will be reading more books to learn myself, to figure out myself, to understand how I react, why I react in certain ways, why I think in certain ways, and just try to figure out myself. I think it's a fun way to do it. I'm still working on Think Fast and Slow. I've learned a lot. I'm taking my time to really digest everything I read and making notes. So eventually I'll, of course, make a video about it. One last thing I would do is keep voicing my opinions. I think especially at work, I think the most important thing is voice my opinions. If you don't talk, people tend to forget you. People think you're not important, then of course your opinions are not important. Eventually, when you have opinion, the first reaction of them will be, of course, shocked. And then the second reaction will be like, just don't worry about it. They tend to brush you off. You don't want that. You want to be valued. You want to be seen at work. And you, of course, want to be heard at work as well. To be able to achieve that, start from something small. And if you're not happy about your situation, you're not happy about the relationship at work with your colleagues, even if you're a student right now, you're not happy with your friends, you're not happy with your roommates or anything, you gotta let them know. Otherwise, they will never understand why you behave certain ways or you all of a sudden change. Voice your opinions, voice your feelings, let them know you are a real human being and you deserve respect. But the first thing you gotta let them know. Don't let them guess. They will never guess you because you are such a sophisticated human being and you have a lot of complicated feelings and thoughts. They can never figure you out. The only person that can figure you out is yourself. So work on yourself, voice your opinions, and read more, exercise more. Have a healthy body to contain your soul. Sometimes we might not be able to have a healthy soul. At least we can have a healthy body. So that's everything. I hope you all have a very, very happy and wonderful holidays and a happy new year. I hope 2026 will be bright for everybody. If not, we can power through and we can work on that and we will be strong. Ciao.
Please subscribe. Like the video too.